goddamn. It's games like the game against the Packers. I mean, I didn't expect the Giants to win. I said last week that, the Giants, even when they're shitty as hell, 2017, 2018, whenever they're real bad, 1998, when they beat the Broncos, who were undefeated at the time, and with Kent Graham and Amani Toomer, like, no matter how bad and shitty the Giants have been, or they always in those seasons have one upset win. I thought maybe the Green Bay Packers would be the upset win because they're banged up across the board. Their run defense stinks, so maybe Saquon gets back on track. It was snowing, so I thought that's perfect weather for just ground, smash mouth football. Just run it down their throats. Wide receivers are banged up. Secondary is banged up. They're vulnerable. I thought maybe we can pull something together. Of course, we didn't have Golden Tate. We didn't have Evan Ingram. But we did have Damari Scott. Who? Yeah, it's a great response. Who the fuck is Damari Scott? All of a sudden, he's on the team, and he's also, like, starting, and he's getting a lot of snaps. And I've given you plenty of examples of why Pat Shurmur should be fired. He's done a lot to not make a good case for him keeping him on. He can always point to the injuries. I get it. It's the fact that we've never had on the same field at the same time Saquon, Tate, Shepard, Ingram. I get it. That sucks. But here's another example of why Pat Shurmur should not stay with the Giants beyond this season. You have a very crucial third down. Game is still within reach. Okay, I know it looks like we got blown out of the water 31-13. Meanwhile, we were in the game for, I want to say, 3/4 into the fourth. Like, we were within striking distance. It wasn't completely out of control. Shurmur dials up on third down, a crucial third down, a shotgun jet sweep handoff to Damari Scott. What the actual fuck are you doing? A guy that has not touched the ball all season, the guy who probably hasn't even been on the team most of the season or has ever taken snaps with the first team most of the season, in a crucial third down where you need the first down, you're going to that guy. That you're calling his number. I mean, just stupid. Just dumb. Just dumb. And if you want to know why James Bettcher should be fired, you can look to the comments made by Janoris Jenkins. Okay, this is he was an elite cornerback. I don't know that he is anymore, but who can tell with this coaching scheme? Jenkins attacked the coaching scheme, Bettcher's scheme, and he admitted he doesn't understand why the coaches are scheming how they are. He says, "I'm the only one in the league that don't travel no more. I don't understand why. I was traveling other years." Of course, the one game that he did travel with Mike Evans against Tampa in week 3, he got torched. So I don't know that, it's like Janoris, the one chance we did give to you, you did not come through. But same respect, you're paying the guy a lot of money, and you're not paying that guy a lot of money, top 5 corner money, to play zone. You're just not. And I guess, was it Richard Sherman? Or maybe even, was it Darrelle Revis? I guess they play like one side of the field, and that's their side of the field, and you rarely see the ball. Okay. But I don't think that's why we signed Janoris Jenkins. I think we signed him to take out the opponent's number 1 receiver, and that hasn't happened. So even though he stunk against Mike Evans, maybe he doesn't stink against the other number 1s, and we don't have essentially no-name receivers that I've never heard of from Green Bay going off for averaging like 30 yards a catch and multiple touchdowns. Just a thought. So, yeah, I think we're finally seeing that the coaches, it's a combination of no talent and bad coaching. And I'd like to think that with that, Gettleman has not misfired that badly on a lot of the first round, second round picks. I know people are very critical of Will Hernandez and saying that Will Hernandez has taken a tremendous step back. And we always looked at the 2018 draft, which was Gettleman's first draft, and this past year's draft as evidence as to why we should keep Gettleman. And now it's not looking like that because BJ Hill has regressed, Will Hernandez has regressed. And at what point do you say that's the coaches? That's on the coaches. The coaches are not doing their job to help these guys mature in their second year. And you could say sophomore slump. Everyone goes through a sophomore slump. Most people go through a sophomore slump. Barkley's going through a sophomore slump. But to say that we shouldn't have drafted Barkley first, or with our first pick last year, I mean, what, dude? The guy is, I mean, you can't, a generational talent once in a lifetime. You cannot pass on that. People are citing that Will Hernandez has a PFF grade, Pro Football Focus grade, that's lower than Ereck Flowers this year. And so everyone's like, oh my God. First of all, Pro Football Focus, like, you almost have to take it with a grain of salt because their grading system is just so, like, out of control. But I don't think that Will Hernandez is worse than Ereck Flowers. I just cannot bring myself to think that. Kevin Zeitler, who we got via the OBJ and Olivier Vernon trades. He just missed the Pro Football Focus's Team of the Week. He recorded the third highest grade for a guard in Week 13 and was the highest grade for the Giants offense, for what it's worth. I know I just shit on PFF, but I guess that's a good sign that he was able to bounce back. At the same time, that makes me think of the OBJ. He's now voicing his frustration in Cleveland, saying like he doesn't know if he's going to be around in 2020. He doesn't know what his future is in Cleveland. He doesn't sound psyched to be on the team or be a part of it, especially after they lost the fucking Steelers and Duck Hodges. And it's like, goddamn Cleveland. On the bright side, so there's a lot not to be happy about with the Giants. My opinion is that the coaching staff stinks and that our top talent is regressing, and our young top talent. And if that's why we were keeping these motherfuckers in the first place, and that's why Gettleman was not going to give them the axe, was like, well, young talent. They're here to develop young talent. Well, guess what? They're not. They're not developing the young talent. Our young talent is actually getting worse under their leadership. So, they always cite Daniel Jones when it comes to escorting Pat Shurmur out of the organization. It's like, I just don't see it. I don't see the progress. I see us getting worse and worse by the week. I see us getting worse. We are worse than we were in 2018. We were 5-11 in 2018. And the only thing I can see happening is now that Jones is hurt and he's got the high ankle sprain, and it looks like maybe they should just shut him down. We're already out of the playoffs. Shut him down for the rest of the season. Let him get healthy and better. I think he saw enough game time and enough snaps to know where he needs to improve and where he's got things down. Wow, this worked out amazingly. Now we get Eli back. He can do his farewell tour the last 4 games of the season. Hopefully sweep the Eagles. But you have fans that are like, we want to see him do good, but we also want to see him lose out so we can still get that top pick and get Chase Young. Wouldn't it be so like Eli and the Giants to go on a 4-win winning streak and we go 6-10 and we don't get the top pick, we can't get Chase Young, Eli's gone, and somehow Shurmur's able to use that goodwill and say, see, when we have our top quarterback and we have Barkley and Ingram and Tate and Shep on the field for the final 4 games, we won games. And that's why I should be coach. Oh, yeah. And while I'm glad that it worked out like it did and we were able to see Eli right off into the sunset with some hopefully some wins, and people put such a fucking emphasis on his record. Oh, 116. Dude, I don't care. And if you're a Giants fan, that should not bother you at all. And that shouldn't even come into the conversation when we talk about Hall of Fame. Absolutely not. Because real fans know this whole stretch, 2013 to now, is completely 1,000% on the front office and the coaching staff. All the way. And I know that can't be quantified. There's no direct correlation that you can put that in a box score, but the real fans know. So if he ends up 116 and 120, I could give a shit because I know what he was able to do for this franchise and that he has the ability to win. It's different if he's like if this was the case the entire 16-year career, which I don't know how you make 16 years out of losing football. I mean, that's just, he wouldn't have been playing 16 years if he was a loser. He just wouldn't. I mean, it's just not, it doesn't happen in the NFL for anyone. So, it's just funny that he was 4 games under 500. Well, okay. I mean, all I have to point to is 2013 to now, when he was surrounded by nincompoops. So I don't give a fuck about that. And all the other fans, like Eagles fans, chirping at me saying 116, he's going to end up with a losing record. I don't care about it. And I guarantee you Eli doesn't give a fuck about it. So keep throwing that number at our face. We don't care. we know what he did for this organization and this franchise. Almost to its detriment. And I said this in a blog post, Eli was carrying the team so much in 2011 in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, that it masked what the true talent of the team. And even Brandon Jacobs said it. He said, listen, this year's Giants team is more talented in my estimation than this 07 and 11 teams. And what's the difference? Well, we were in a better mental headspace. We persevered despite our maybe not being as talented. Headstrong, confidence, all the things that players should take upon themselves to do. But it's also the responsibility of that coaching staff. And you can see, and Tiki Barber has talked about this, and Tom Coughlin has talked about this, and the players on that 07 team have talked about this. We lost Tiki Barber, retired before the 07 season. So talent-wise, we were not better at the running back position. But Tom Coughlin saw Tiki Barber's retirement as a sign that he needs to change things and he needs to get better and he needs to have a better relationship with his team. He formed the captain squad, whatever you call it. Top player from each unit would meet, have a leadership group, and then it trickles down and filters down from there. Guarantee you Pat Shurmur doesn't have that. Guarantee you Ben McAdoo didn't have anything like that. So yeah, you could say that Tom Coughlin was prematurely let go or fired or forced out the door, and it was partially because of Jerry Reese and not giving him the tools that he needed. Sure. But then someone tweets a video of Ron Rivera. Rivera gets fired by the Panthers, which is, I mean, if Rivera's getting fired this early in the season, before Black Monday, like a month before Black Monday, how in the fuck does Pat Shurmur have a job? Because someone tweeted out a video of Ron, and I've heard nothing, and maybe I just have blinders on and rose-colored glasses, but I have not. I've found way more positives about Ron Rivera than I have negatives. Sure, he mucked up a few games this year, winnable games where it came down to the goal line situation, and maybe, he doesn't put his team in the right call. Maybe he doesn't stress to the offensive coordinator, hey, we need something better than just McCaffrey up the middle. But all positives, especially from his players. Greg Olsen, guys that have played with him for a long time, can say nothing but good things about this man. And then that video of Ron Rivera in the locker room at halftime, talking to a cornerback, talking to his team. David Mayo, I saw a David Mayo sighting in that locker room during that speech, which it wasn't a canned speech. That was him, off the cuff, natural, not even talking about X and O's, talking man to man, saying this team thinks they're better than you. They've challenged you, and we've taken it, and we need to give it back to them. And he speaks from more than just X's and O's. He speaks on a human level and connects with his players. Just in that 1-2 minutes talk that I saw, I was like, that's our guy. We need Ron Rivera yesterday. And I don't know how John Mara sees that video and doesn't immediately fire Pat Shurmur and hire Ron Rivera like 2:50 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th. I just don't know how you see that video and don't think, and yes, it's just a snippet and it's a clip out of a very, it's just a minor moment out of, it's just a small sample, but goddamn, that got me fired up. I wanted to run through a wall, inject into my veins, all those cliche sayings. Ron Rivera's our guy. Because he's able to talk to, and it goes beyond football with him. And he said this with like, some reporter brought up like Jonathan Stewart told Ron Rivera that he had a boy or a girl, he had a baby. And Ron Rivera was ecstatic and so happy for that player and was like, this is the best moment of your life. And it goes beyond football with Ron Rivera. And I think that's important. And yeah, you want to keep it professional. You want to focus on football, but you also want to realize how football fits in the greater context of life and of becoming a father, a husband, a brother, a son. All that shit matters. And there's a disconnect. And you can say that Pat Shurmur's a player's coach all you want, and he's seeing a lot of progress in practice. Blah, 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 blah. Point is, I don't think you're going to see people talk about Pat Shurmur when he gets canned like they have, like Greg Olsen has talked about Ron Rivera. I am so in on Ron Rivera as our next head coach. It's unbelievable. And yet you have Steve Tisch coming out and saying, we're going to wait until the end of the season when me and John can get together and talk about what we saw and what we think for 2021. And I'm just thinking, Steve, you are delaying the inevitable. What about this season has told you that Pat Shurmur is your guy and that James Bettcher is your guy and that this staff is your staff that's going to turn this fucking team around? What about that? What about them has convinced you that these are the guys and that they're making the right decisions? So regardless of talent, are you making the right calls on the field? No, they're not, obviously. Julian Love didn't sniff the field for the first 10, 11 weeks of the season. He is now playing and starting and seeing significant snaps, and he's doing an amazing job. What the fuck happened there? What? Just tell us. Tell us, because from our perspective, it looks like you really fucked up on Julian Love, how you evaluated his talent and how you estimated how he can contribute to the ball club. It looks like you grossly erred on that side. You like very hardcore, egregious error on your part as a coaching staff that you didn't think that this guy should be on the field all the time. It's just like bananas. I just little stuff like that just, it boggles my mind. Jabrill Peppers is on IR. I mean, that's probably for the best. It's a lost season. Don't want to get him any more hurt. But I think that he can be a key contributor moving forward. Kaden Smith looks good. Again, it's only 2 games. He had the touchdown against Chicago, but it was like from 5 catches for 17 yards. It wasn't like he's, mind-boggling, blowing stuff out of the water. And then this game against the Packers, he had a couple of good catches, but most of his chunk yardage came when the game's already out of reach and it's just trash, garbage time. So I'm not completely sold on Kaden Smith. I think he's looked good so far, but I'd like to see how he progresses down the stretch. But that is a good sign because that means a couple things. If Kaden can come around and actually perform and it looks like he can be your number one, which is crazy to say, you don't need Rhett Ellison in his fucking contract, and you can even think about trading Evan Ingram. Or I would err on the side of possibly moving Evan Ingram to a slot number 3 wideout position. So there's some good to have out of this. But oh boy. With this loss against the Packers, Pat Shurmur becomes the first Giants head coach with 10-plus losses in each of his first 2 seasons with the team since Ray Perkins in 1979 and 1980. Of course, I think Perkins left in maybe 81 or something like that when we got Parcells in 83. So the tides are changing. I honestly think that we're almost at the end of Shurmur and Betcher and all that nonsense. I think that's going to be like a palate cleanser. We're going to detox from that, bring in a whole new coaching staff that knows what the fuck they're doing and has shown that Ron Rivera is a proven winner. And honest to God, this is how sad the state of our franchise is, that we just want playoffs, dude. We're not even talking Super Bowls here. We're just talking winning records. A winning record. That'd be cool. If we miss the playoffs, shucks. But let's have a winning record. I'll take it 8-8. I miss the days of 8-8. 8-8 used to be like a nightmare for this franchise. We went 8-8. There are times when we went 8-8 and made the playoffs, and we were like, "Oh man, what the state of the New York Giants? Are we like, what do we do?" I would die for years like that. So I would take 8-8, miss the playoffs over what we're getting now, because I think we're regressing, and I think Mara knows that, and Tish has to know that. And you can point to injuries all you want, but look at the fucking Patriots, dude. And I know the Patriots are an outlier. They're an exception to the rule. But there are teams that are getting dinged up with injuries, and it's next man up. And even the Giants did that in the past, where they have injuries. It would be next man up, good to go, because everyone bought into the mission. Everyone knew what they were doing, how to execute. They were properly coached up. And this team is not. And I think we definitely do have the talent. We just need better coaches. So, all right, that's this week's episode. I'm sure I missed a lot. I'm sure I broached a lot. I mean, this is what happens when you have a full-time job and your mind is fucking fried. It's just like you're just kind of winging it and hoping for the best. So hopefully you stuck around through it all. If not, so be it. I'm talking to myself, talking to the Lord above, talking to Dad up there, up in the ether or whatever. All right, so that's it. Reach out to me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Reddit. I don't know. No one does, so it's fine. Call the voicemail that no one calls, 862-BIT-1986. And that does it for this week. We'll see you next week, muchachos. Adios.